4 months ago on this channel, I released a video talking about my Football Manager skin, announcing the release of WTCS to the world, and I'm here to announce that in collaboration with Blues Till I Die, there is the biggest update we've ever done to this skin, releasing today as you watch this video. If you're seeing this video, it's out right now. There are some absolutely crazy overhauls and new screens to the skin, including the new Club General Overview screen. The competition screen has also seen a new change, allowing you to look through various tabs really quickly to view anything you could possibly want regarding a competition at the click of a button. Lots of people were annoyed in the last version that we didn't touch the national profiles. That was taken personally. We've updated these too. And I know for some people they were very annoyed that the pitch on the tactics screen wasn't green. I'm here to tell you now, it's green, it's bigger, and it's got loads of new functionality that isn't even available in the base game. In case you can't tell, I'm rather excited to tell you all about the updates coming to TCS 1.3. Let's run the intro and get straight into things, shall we? How is it going, you lovely lot? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing better than I am. In case you can't tell, my voice is going. Now, as I've already mentioned, TCS 1.3 is out right now. There is a link to download it down in the description. If you need a guide on how to install the skin, there'll also be a link to that down below too. Now, before I delve too far into showing you all the goodness that comes with the new skin, of which there's some really nice changes, I do just want to take a moment to give you guys a bit of a heartfelt thank you, really. We've been working, myself and Blues Till I Die Tom, on the skin for the last 6 years. There's been different versions of TCS. At the time of recording, we're almost at 1 million downloads. With this version releasing, we will go past 1 million downloads. Of course, FM25 is going to see a complete rebuild of Football Manager from the ground up from Sports Interactive's point of view. So there is a chance this is the last ever TCS skin we'll ever release for Football Manager. So if you are someone who's used this skin over the years, just want to say a bit of a thank you really for the support. It really has meant a lot. Now, saying all of that, the skin has seen a whole lot of changes in this update, which I'm going to endeavour to cover in as much detail as possible. I am going to miss some stuff. There's been a lot change in this update. Now, first things first, I know a lot of people didn't like our old tablet screen for news. It didn't really make the use of the space available. Good news, the new screen has seen a big overhaul to just make it look like an actual news website you're activating and accessing, which is really, really cool. You'll be able to see all your news here. And on top of that, a little cool feature, if you are looking at your game thinking, I want logos, I want stadium pictures, I want kits. Well, if you come to the news screen and then go to the Work the Space Guides tab, here we have an actual functional browser where you can find whatever you want to add to your game, face packs, logo packs, trophy packs, and by clicking on any of these videos, it will take you to the actual video in your web browser of choice and talk you through how to install it. So for any friends that you have who don't mod their Football Manager, get them to install this skin, and then they can just follow all these guides to get everything they could want to make the most of their Football Manager experience. Now, in terms of the club overview screen here, this hasn't seen some major changes. In fact, it probably looks semi-familiar if you use the previous version of the skin, but there is some new stuff. We've added a brand new finances tab to the screen, which allows you to see an overview of your club's finances at a brief glance. On top of that, you can also look at stuff like FFP compliance and sponsorship money. Of course, when you play Football Manager, normally you do get the sponsorship inbox items where it tells you where you rank amongst your peers. Using this skin, you are able to look at other teams' sponsorship income and such. I know that some people aren't going to like the fact they can see other teams' transfer budget and wage budget, so use this tab if you want to, or avoid it at your own leisure. We all have those moments, don't we, where we see a rival Football Manager team struggling, and we get curious, what's gone wrong there? With this skin, you're going to be able to look at what might have gone wrong. On the club overview screen, the history tab has also seen an update to provide you more information than ever before, and on top of that, if you just like looking at stadiums around the world, you can now look at stadiums using the stadium tab. For those of you that love your away days, you can enjoy your away days in slightly larger quality. And as I already showed in the intro, on top of the changes to the club overview screen, by going to the general screen, there is even more information accessible for any club. There's some really cool stuff here. If you want to look at the supporter profiles for any teams around the world of football, you are going to be able to do that. If you want to look at stuff like other clubs' 5-year plans and club cultures, these can also be viewed using the skin. Appreciate, like the finances stuff, not going to be for everyone, but again, if you want to see what your rival teams are doing, what their aims are for the year, you can now get a pretty good vibe for that. Now, another screen that's seen some big updates is the Nation Overview screen. This is something that we hadn't touched in previous versions of this skin for FM24. There are some pretty nice changes, I think, to it now. It now more closely resembles that of the Club Overview screen, providing you a whole lot of information, including national teams' key players, kits as well. If you've got kit packs, they will all display. The stadium the national team play at too is also featured here. And for those of you that like doing building a nation saves or just looking at clubs in detail, you can see here we also now have a national youth rating represented with stars. Using mods as part of the skin, which I'll talk about at the end of the video, you can change this to show the exact numeric value between 1 and 200, but as part of the base skin at least, you won't get an exact valuation for this. The youth rating is essentially a number that Football Manager gives to different nations to indicate how good the youth players are that they should be producing. Now, another new update to the skin is the ability to add bookmarks and also set a custom homepage. Of course, by default, this will be your normal homepage that Football Manager takes you to if you press F2. But say you want to change this, or indeed you just want to have something else you're looking at. Maybe you just want to look at the Premier League and be able to access this specific screen nice and quickly by simply going to the bookmarks button in the top right. You can click here, add this page to bookmarks, call it whatever you want. And then when you click off it, you can now go to any screen. And then by just accessing the bookmarks here, we can really quickly go to the Premier League screen. You can use this to access any screen in Football Manager. I shouldn't say any, there will be some exceptions, but any nations you might want to be keeping an eye on, maybe a player that used to be yours that you want to have quick access to, you can do that. And on top of all of that, if you'd rather have, say, your club overview screen as your homepage, what you could do is add this page to your bookmarks like so, and then set this page as homepage. What this means is that if you ever go on any screen, I'm going to go to the most random screen possible. Yes, I did sign Scott McTominay as Tottenham manager, don't question it. But say I'm looking at Scott here, simply by pressing F2, it will now take you to the club overview screen. So yeah, just some nice functionality for those of you that want that. Whilst we have McTominay on the brain, that sounds like a disease, we might as well talk about the player profile screen. This has seen some really nice changes. First and foremost, captains and vice-captains will show a little icon next to their name. Super nice addition there. You now also have the ability that wasn't in my previous video to change whatever you want to have in the top left corner. For me personally, I just like the back of kit zoomed. And if I pick a player who's been playing more regularly, like Archie Gray, there's a whole load of new screens we can look at. I'm going to come to analysis at the very end, but first and foremost, you can have a look at player reports, the player history screen, transfer and training screens. I've also seen some improvements now. There is way more space afforded for all the stuff for this, so it should feel a whole lot less cluttered. Just allows you to manage everything about a player from one single screen without leaving their profile. And as I've already just alluded to, the analysis tab is a little bit of a game changer. Shout out to Musterman. He has done an amazing skin of his own that is very statistically orientated. We've been able to use some of the stuff, with permission of course, to bring into the skin, which means there's a whole load of new analytics at your disposal. Now, to explain this real quick, down this right-hand side, we have different archetypes of players. Goalkeepers, centre-backs, full-backs, defensive midfielders, attacking midfielders, and strikers. In the case of Archie Gray, he's been playing as one of our defensive midfielders, so we can click on things here, and essentially all of these statistics are represented on the graph as a percentile. So if we just hover over the little question mark here, it's the top 20 leagues in the world and the numbers that their players put up. So for example, 7 progressive passes per match, or 7.39 on average for Archie Gray, puts him in the top kind of 95% percentile. Each dashed line you see is essentially 20%. The further out something is on the graph, the better the player has been at doing that specific thing. So for example, if we look at Archie Gray here, he has been, as a defensive midfielder, putting in 0.56 dribbles per game, only winning 2 tackles and only pressuring players 10 times per game. Whereas if we look at Devine here and look at him as a defensive midfielder, we can see he has been a little bit more complete in his duties, winning more tackles, has really good progressive passing, has a really good non-penalty XG goals, which is nice, and averaging more shots than the average defensive midfielder. Should we now look at the player roles and such, you can kind of see that Devine is playing more as a deep line playmaker, whereas Archie Gray is playing, well, as a slightly more attacking player, not carrying the ball forward as often, and of course, not putting in as many tackles. This screen here really gives you just a nice snapshot of your players, their strengths, their weaknesses, how certain roles are working within the match engine. You can use this to apply to your own players or players that your analysts are already tracking. And should you want to, you can also scroll down here to see various different stats. What you can see here is the number of attempted of whatever these things are, with the outer circle, and the inner is how many times they successfully do a thing. So for example, he averages 18 pass attempts per game and completes 16, whereas shots attempted 2.9, nice big circle, shots on target, less than half of that, smaller circle. And if you do just find all the charts and everything else very overwhelming, there is just bar charts you can also look at. And like what I showed before, you're able to look at these on a per position basis. And of course, if you just want all the regular data analyst stuff, that does all still just exist within the game on, the player analytics screen in the data hub. But to be honest, how many people of you actually use these charts and find them useful? I'm going to guess probably not that many of you. But for those of you that do like to use data analytics or wish that they were more accessible, boy, have I got some really good news for you. Here we are on the new look tactics screen, making a bit more use of space, allowing you some more area to set up custom views and have more information on display as well. As you can see in this example here, we are playing our 4-2-3-1. You will notice the two little circles. These represent a player's right and left footedness. Bright green being their natural foot, the other colour being perhaps the foot that they're not so good with. What I like about this first and foremost is that we've been able to give you more space to look at the pitch. On top of that, there is some new functionality. Firstly, you'll note that we've changed stuff like the mentality and instructions to be at the bottom. This was just a conscious design choice to allow us more space for the kind of player list on the right. On top of that, there is a new button in this bottom corner, which I hear you ask, Jack, what does the button in the bottom corner do? Well, if we click on it here, we can look at our upcoming opponent. If you're collecting scout reports on your upcoming opponent, there will be more information here. For example, we can have a look at Bournemouth's projected lineup for our FA Cup final against them. We can see our scout report on their strengths and weaknesses. We can also see an analyst report on how they've been doing in their recent games, what they've been up to, strengths and weaknesses of their game. And then last but not least, we can also look at our last 5 games to see where things maybe haven't been going to plan for us. And of course, once you finish looking at all this stuff, you do also just want to click the little history box here to collapse it all back down. All in all, this is great. On top of that, we've also added this, which I absolutely love. Just more information available to you, the ability to look at players and what they're up to, change their instructions on the fly. I think it just looks way, way better. And when you've finished clicking on a player, annoyingly, there's not like a super simple way to close it all, except either hitting the close button in the top right or just clicking on the pitch where there's not a player. But yeah, you can do this for any player you want. You can also make subs for players from this area too. So yeah, just more functionality for the tactics screen. Just making the base game better. That is the motto of this skin. Now, one other little change, which I'm sure some of you are going to like, is a new change that we've made to the in-game editor. We've added in the ability to edit club names. By default, this isn't in the in-game editor when you launch Football Manager, but using this skin, you'll have the ability to basically change anything related to the naming of a club. So, I don't know, say you're me, and you forgot to install a Brazilian real name fix. I forgot to rename Flamengo. Well, good news, if you've got the editor enabled, you can edit all of this in your save game using the in-game editor that is available, obviously, for purchase separately, but with the functionality we've added with this skin, you can name the clubs. So just for example, I'm going to rename Flamengo here. We'll go with that. And if I hit OK, you can now see that unlike other Brazilian teams, Flamengo now have their actual name. Really, really cool addition. Just added functionality for you guys. Whilst we're here on Flamengo screen, let's take a look at the new match report screen. We have rebuilt this slightly from the last skins version to give you a new centralized look. If you have a game that's been played in detail, you will be able to see additional analytics. But from here, you can see the formations and also the lineups teams used. And if I just pick a recent game that I played like this one here, you can see we do have the match momentum. You can have a look at some basic analytics. And if you want to look at it in more detail, you just have to click the analytical data button here to get a full breakdown and accessibility to any stats from the match that you could want. Now, for some reason, we've not been able to work out exactly why. Sometimes the match momentum graph doesn't work, so it will just be broken. If you are annoyed by that particularly, you can just click the grey line here, drag it down, and hide that. So then you don't have to worry about it ever again. And if you want to bring it back when you do actually want to check match momentum, you can drag it up And now it's just been fixed because Football Manager's going to Football Manager. There's just weird bugs. It's Football Manager. We can only do so much with skinning. Another really, really nice change is the addition of my custom views to the game via the skin. No longer do you have to go away and download certain views. We couldn't actually get them all working. But for example, for my Ultimate Club view screen, by simply having the skin installed, there will be a new tab here that says Work the Space Views. And without installing anything besides the skin, you can get accessibility to stuff like my Ultimate Squad view. Yeah, without needing to download anything else. This is really, really cool. We've also added in an additional version of this that allows you to see player faces and the nationality under the player names. Just little changes. You know, this won't be for everyone. There's a reason it's hidden away, but if you want to just jazz up your Football Manager a little bit, it's an option. I should also point out that these views do also exist for stuff like the player search screen, your shortlist screen, if you want to keep track of players. And of course, on top of that, fixtures also include my view and also TCS Tom, who makes the skins view. So yeah, options. I didn't realize until I was going through this how much we've actually changed about this skin. Now, as part of the skin, the competition screen has also seen a overhaul. This includes, well, what you can see here, the ability to see everything on one nice screen with a whole lot of detail, a new tabbed approach which allows you to look at stuff like managers, easily access the past position graph, past winners, rules, and also the season preview, which of course is normally tucked away. One really nice thing about this new tab, the season preview tab, is it exists for all competitions. And that does mean for stuff like the Champions League here, by going to season preview, for the first time ever, I believe, in any Football Manager skin, and I don't want to say that too loudly because I might be wrong, but I've never seen it before, we have Media Dream 11s for international and continental competitions and domestic cups. So for example here, we have the Champions League Media Dream 11, as well as key players for every single team competing in the Champions League. Gives you a really easy way to access just players around the world. I should point out for competitions that have already happened, it won't populate. Obviously, if there's not a World Cup that year, you're not going to see a World Cup Media Dream 11. But for example, with the UEFA Nations League ongoing, by going to the season preview here, we can see a breakdown of the best squad made up of European players. And I think it's pretty bloody cool, the ability to have this information. It also applies to youth competitions, which means, for example, if you want to take a look at the UEFA Under-21 Championship qualifiers, we can have a quick look at the best Under-21 players in the world and potentially find the next star before they break out. For example, there was an 18-year-old here, Nino Zielinski. Is he good? He looks quite good. In fact, my scouts have already looked at him. He's very good. I should probably sign him in this save. I should point out that Nino's not played any games, so there's no analytics for him. But for example, this Chilean player on loan from Manchester United for Fulham, if we go to his analytics, we can actually look at an analytical breakdown of his ability as a striker. Above average ball carrying, good tackles won, okay headers won, not very good at a whole lot else, and, well, when you look at his aerial ability, you can see why he might be quite good in the air. The staff screen here has seen some minor tweaks, the ability to see all your different staff members listed, and on top of that, if we just go to any staff member's profile, all staff members in the game have this new look profile screen, allowing you to look at a whole lot of information related to them for all the different categories that staff work in. Just a nice refresh to the screen that, well, previously was not changed all that much in the last version. I like all these changes. It tends to not just apply to your own players and staff, but to staff all around the world. So we can have a look at De Zerbi here, his preferences when it comes to set pieces and such. We can also have a look at his history, what he's been up to during his save game, and his biography here in all the detail. Again, just a nice little refresh to a screen that we really didn't touch in the last version. So like I mentioned already, the skin does have some different mods. I will cover how to install them in the skin in a little bit of detail at the end of the video. If you ever watch any of my content using this version of the skin, you will see that my tactics screen is like this. The reason I have it laid out like this is because my webcam goes in the bottom left. So by having it like this, my face isn't in the way. There's a whole load of other tweaks that I do use as part of the skin. So if you ever see something that looks different in my videos to what you see when you install the skin yourself, it could well be down to that. And if I just quickly head into a game against Bournemouth here, you can see we still have all the same functionality when it comes to looking at stats, analytics and such. But within the game itself, of course, there is the updated UI, which hasn't changed greatly since the latest version, but it is slightly more customizable. So within matches using the content creator UI, I actually have the subs all shuffled across to the side, simply so my webcam has a nice place to sit, and you can still see the goalkeeper next to me. Within matches, you also get the modified tactics screen, which is really, really nice. Sadly, we couldn't get it work on the right-hand side, like outside of matches for my webcam. So I'm sorry, Rico, Lewis, Van der Ven and Konoseki, you're just blocked by my big old head. instead. And last but not least, between highlights, you can see what we have on offer here. There is the ability to change these two panels on the left-hand side. So for cup competitions, you might want to have all the different fixtures going around. You could want to have the dugout with all the different assistant advice popping up, for example. And on top of that, like in the previous version of TCS, you have the ability to click through all the different options for analytics and such. We have also added the ability to scale this panel on the left-hand side. So if you want your tablet bigger, you can do that. I realize, can you just drag this all the way to the left and hide it? I've not tried this yet. Yeah, you can. So if you just want to have a big old tablet and you don't want all the stats on the left, you could do that. I don't know why you'd do that, but it's an option. And another thing to note, like previous versions of the skin, by using this drop down here, there is also an instant result button. By clicking this here, you can skip to the end of matches you don't want to bear witness to. You can also skip games using a new simulate match button ahead of going into a game on the tactics screen. Now, before I conclude this video, just talking about how to mod things and install the skin itself, which I'll cover in a little bit of detail. Like I mentioned at the top of things, this probably is one of the final versions of WTCS you will see for the foreseeable future. Of course, Football Manager is moving into Unity. It's a whole new kind of coding language, a new engine for the game to run in. It essentially means that the 20 plus years of modifying Football Manager skins that has built up in terms of knowledge is completely forgotten about, and we start from scratch. So as a result of that, it's very unlikely there'll be a skin next year. What I would say is, if you've enjoyed using this version of the skin, thank you for using it. Like I already said, we are closing in on 1 million downloads of the skin over the last 6 years, which is absolutely crazy. It's a project that me and Tom have really kind of worked together on. He is the brains of the operation in terms of coding it and making it work. I tend just to spitball ideas and moan at him when I find things that are broken. It's a functional relationship, I promise. I am absolutely certain I will have missed some changes in the skin, so if I missed anything, you find out about it. Let me know what you find down in the comments. Like I mentioned, everything you can need will be down in the description. Now, just as a little refresher, if you want to install the skin, you're going to want to download it down below. It will come in a .zip or .rar format. Once you have that file downloaded, you're going to want to move it to your Football Manager skins folder. The location of this can vary slightly, but on a Windows PC, it'll be at C users, your Windows username, documents, Sports Interactive, Football Manager 2024, and then skins. If you do not have a skins folder, you just need to make it within this location here. You'll know you're in the right place as well, because you'll be able to see stuff like graphics, if you've got any graphics packs installed, and also just all the different stuff, such as your save games here. So once the zip is in location, you're going to want to extract it using WinRAR or 7-zip. If you don't have either of those or any other means by which to extract it, check the guide down below. Once it is successfully extracted, you will have the skin folder here, and if we click on this once, you will see all the different stuff located within this folder immediately. Once the skin is installed, you can then load up Football Manager. Very important to have it closed whilst you install it. You are going to want to go to your preferences, and within here, where the skin dropdown exists, just select WTCS Gold 1.3. If the skin doesn't exist here, you've not installed it in the right place. And one mistake I do see very, very occasionally is people who maybe extract the file that they've downloaded, but it's a folder within a folder. If your skin isn't immediately accessible with one click from the skins folder, it won't work. So similar to installing the skin, if you do want to mod it, I do recommend closing the game completely. So we are going to quit out of Football Manager here. And then if we go to our skins folder, you will notice we have the mods folder in all capitals. Within here is a whole load of different tweaks and additions to the skin that just modify things for your own preference. So for example, on the competition screen here, we have a slightly alternative competition overview panel, which I personally use. If you click on the .png preview, you can then load up a quick look at how this looks. So if you'd rather have the Media Dream 11 in the bottom right and a more visual kind of style, I suppose, of all the different players ranked by stats, you could install this mod. If you want to install this mod, as I already mentioned, close Football Manager completely, then you're going to just want to copy the folder here that is called Panels, either using Control-C or by right-clicking, navigate back to the Skins folder where there is already a Panels folder that exists, and then when you paste, it'll tell you, hey, you're about to overwrite some files. By replacing these files, you are applying that mod to your skin. I mentioned earlier in the video about the national profile screen and the fact you might want to see the youth rating as a number rather than stars. To install that mod, all you would do is come to the show youth rating mod here, and then the exact same way, copy panels, navigate back to your skins folder where the panels folder already exists, paste it in, and you'll know you're pasting into the right location if Windows tells you, hey, you're about to overwrite some files. So all you need to do, obviously, is hit replace, and the mod is applied. And if, for example, you decide, actually, I don't really like this different competition screen, to revert it back, all you need to do is navigate to the mods folder, and where we previously copied panels, if you go to the default folder, the vanilla default panels exist. So we can just copy these in, go back again to the screen, paste, replace, and now we've reapplied the default files that are in the base skin of, well, WTCS 1.3. If you did find the install guide a little bit too brief, just a reminder, go watch the previous video. I went through in a whole load of detail. I didn't feel like we needed to repeat that in this one here. If you have any issues with the skin, we will endeavor to help. If there is any updates or future versions, I will update all the links down below in the description as well. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you guys using the skin, and well, get into the end of this video if you managed to do so. Take things easy. It is me, Jack, and well, hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm out.